it was a very scary experience. There was probably, I don't know, 10 people in our hotel room with EMTs and stuff like that, firefighters and whatnot. But they got me onto the stretcher, got me to the hospital. I had a stomach ulcer. I had lost a little bit more than half my blood. And they found that out that I had an ulcer and were able to give me some fluids. But yeah, it was a very scary experience.
What's going on today? I'm the host, SchuZ, and joining me today is two-time All-Summit League selection, two-time Summit League tournament champion, the sixth all-time leader in assists in North Dakota State history, as well as a ninth all-time leading rebounder. He's a two-time All-Summit League tournament team selection, a top 100 ranked transfer according to ESPN's top 100 transfers, and he's one of the newest members of the Nebraska Cornhuskers, Sam Griesel. Sam, appreciate you taking time to come on today, man.
Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, we've got a lot to get into with your story. It's been a hectic journey to get to where you're at today, but I want to start off with something not on the court, it's off of it. And you've been able to be, with NIL coming into effect, you've now been able to participate in a lot of giving back. And the biggest thing for you, at least, is with Land's Light. So I want you to kind of open up a little about that. Like, take us through what got you started in doing that and just take us through that a little bit.
Yeah. So I interned with the Landon's Light Foundation last summer. And basically what they are is just a nonprofit organization that was started because of a kid that I knew in Fargo. And I met him a few years ago, my freshman year, and just hung out with him a few times. And he ended up passing away just due to cancer. So his parents started the foundation kind of in his honor, and they help a bunch of kids up there and families up there that are kind of going through what they went through. And yeah, I was just through the foundation, I was able to meet a number of just amazing families, kids, and parents, and kind of just changed my life and really affected my life in a positive way. So when the whole NIL stuff came out, that's immediately what I thought of, was just giving back to them and any way that I could do that. Obviously, I had been volunteering and serving with them, but now even being able to help financially is definitely big time for me.
That is a unique thing, though. And obviously there are a few other guys that have decided to give some money, give a lot of it towards charity events or some kind of way of giving back. But it's obviously not easy. I mean, even though NIL's helped get you guys money, it hasn't necessarily been a ton of money where it's like something you can live off of. So what's giving you the kind of confidence to say, you know what, I'm able to get some amount of money and I want to give back. I still want to put forth some time of giving back to money, giving to other people. What inspired you to do that?
I think, well, part of it is as student athletes, obviously the NIL stuff is great. And, I think it's deserved, in a way, but at the same time, we live pretty nice lives being, especially Division I athletes, getting our education. Most of us are our education paid for. And, I don't know, I think kind of throughout this whole thing, a lot of people have forgot about that and all the gear that we get, free clothes and all that stuff. And I think it really just helps us, with our future, with not having to pay off student debt and stuff like that. So, I mean, just kind of keeping that in mind. And then, but the giving back part is just kind of something how I was raised. My parents have both been really involved with charity work and giving back to foundations and stuff like that my whole life. So it's just something that I've been around, and I just, one of my big things is just serving others. I think we're all here to, help each other live the best lives that we can live. And that's one way that I can personally do that. So
I mentioned in the intro that you have had a crazy journey. It hasn't been one of those success stories where you just see guys highly ranked throughout high school, you get tons of offers and you go right out to your dream school or something like that. You've had a long journey. So that's why I want fans to get to know how you've become the player that you are today, the all-commerce type player, one of the top players in North Dakota State history. So if we head all the way back, though, you started off this whole journey growing up where you're at now out there in Lincoln, Nebraska. What was it like growing up out there?
It's a really I don't know. So growing up here, I've always thought it's not a small town, but it's not obviously a big town. And with people that I've met here that come here to go to school, they're like, "Oh yeah, Lincoln is so small," which has been kind of funny to hear. But I mean, it's a really tight community. Everyone pretty much knows something about everyone. But obviously, growing up here, it's a big college town. Football game days are really special here, obviously, and the support that the university gets as a whole with athletics is just really cool to see, and definitely played a big part in me coming back here. And that's part of it, like just growing up as a fan of Nebraska basketball, and now I get to obviously I went away for 4 years and then come back as a player is just something that I couldn't pass up.
I did kind of want to ask you, and it's jumping a little bit ahead, obviously, but growing up, did you have a dream school? And if so, was that Nebraska?
Yeah, I would say that it was Nebraska, just because I grew up going to the games, and I don't know. I've always felt kind of like when there was, I guess, other players from Nebraska that would go to other schools. Obviously it's in their best decision, and it was best for them. But I always really wanted to see, a local kid succeed at Nebraska, and I'm hoping that I can be that person.
We talked a little bit about your parents and how they kind of brought you up to become the person who wants to give back. So talk about them a little bit. How was it like growing up with them, and how do they help make you into the person that you are today?
Yeah. My dad is originally from Germany.
Mm-hmm.
So I have German citizenship and U.S. citizenship, which is kind of unique and really nice for professional opportunities. So he came over here when he was like late 20s, like 28 or 29. He came over here, met my mom. Basically, the rest is history. But I mean, growing up, they were always just really supportive. I like to try, I was big in soccer because my dad, that was probably my favorite sport really growing up until about middle school. And then basketball took over. But yeah, those two were just always super, super supportive. I think I get my basketball abilities from my mom, definitely. My dad has tried to shoot a basketball, and it looks like he's just thrown it in for soccer. But like I said, they were just really supportive, and my mom is like my best friend. I mean, I talked to her when I was away in North Dakota. I would talk to her like every single day, and really close with both of them, and I'm very grateful for them for sure.
You mentioned that soccer was the sport you grew up pretty much playing up until middle school. So what caused a shift on for you? Like what led you to basketball?
Um, I mean, I think a big part of it, honestly, was just the fact that I grew,
Mm.
especially, pretty much my freshman to sophomore year, I grew a lot. And so I quit soccer after my sophomore year of high school just because I felt kind of awkward out there. Like I was just this lanky, probably 6'3", 6'4" guy just running around there. But yeah, and then obviously having basketball role models and really getting into like the NBA and college basketball. And yeah, I mean, just fell in love with the game right then.
When you talk about Nebraska, it's not necessarily a basketball state. Obviously, football is the dominant one. And you talk about some guys that's been up and coming now. Hunter Sallis has been an incredible player coming out of there. Isaac Trout, Donovan Williams. Quite a few guys have made it out to Division I level now, but the culture is still been developing. It's still working its way up to where it's been at. So, in terms of the basketball culture out there, like what was it like just growing up in basketball, in the basketball atmosphere out there in Nebraska?
Yeah, obviously, like you said, it definitely is a football school. Some could even argue a volleyball school at this point. And I mean, I don't know. As a fan growing up, the support for all the athletic teams is really, really good here, and that's something that I've always really liked about this place. And obviously, I grew up going to camps and stuff, so I was always kind of around the program. Obviously, didn't know the ins and outs of everything, but I don't know. One of my dreams, I guess, just in the year that I get here is really touching that culture piece and getting out into the community and just I don't know. I just want to be a part of a product on the floor that the fans and community here can just be proud of and see us play hard with smiles on our faces and just kind of represent this place really well.
Let's hop into your high school career a little bit, but before we officially get into that aspect, if someone would have came in and told you that by the end of your high school career, you were going to become a guy that's one of the top players in school history, and on top of that, though, you're also a guy that has Division I offers. You'll have the opportunity to play at the next level, have school paid for. Would that have shocked you? Was that what you were expecting heading into high school, or how would you have reacted if someone told you that?
Um, I don't know. I definitely think heading into high school, I wouldn't have believed it. Maybe at like a D3 level or something. Um, but I really gained a lot of confidence going from like my sophomore to junior year of high school.
Mm-hmm.
So then at that point, I probably would have, you know, believed it and been inspired by it or whatever. But yeah, going into high school, I always felt like I was really skilled. I was still pretty short. I was very like average height, um, and didn't have like the most confidence in the world. But yeah, so I guess at that point, I don't know if I would have believed you.
Would you say that heading into high school, you still had that love for basketball? Like if that was something that you could have done, you basically just wanted to go as far as you could, or did that love develop over time, or especially during that jump from sophomore to junior year?
Yeah, I remember talking to my mom in the car. I was going home from my friend's house and we were watching the NCAA tournament. And I actually think it was North Carolina. I remember just telling her, I think I was probably in middle school, and I just looked at her and told her that, someday I was going to play in the NCAA tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So I was always really like inspired by, I don't know, players and cool stories and stuff like that. So, um, I mean, I don't know. I definitely had a love for the game. It obviously grew a lot in high school and just getting more experiences. And now, I mean, I've never loved the game more. And
Mm-hmm.
gains, I just get more and more in love with it, I guess, every year.
Well, you decided to go out there to Lincoln East High. What was about that school? Was it just a local school you just kind of went to, or what brought you there to that school?
Yeah, it was honestly just the local school. Kind of everyone from my neighborhood or my area of Lincoln went to Lincoln East, and I grew up going to their clinics and whatnot. And so, as far as like a decision, it was pretty straightforward for me.
You get out there your freshman season and you look at your overall career, you guys end up winning a lot throughout the second half of your career there. But you guys start off, it wasn't necessarily the best year. So take us to that first year. I believe you guys were a couple of games under 500, I think 11 and 13 that year. What was your first year like as a freshman out there?
Yeah. So as a freshman, I was on JV, and then at the end of the year, I swung varsity. But I think honestly, a big thing for me was just being able to play against 17 and 18-year-old um, kids starting at a very young age as a freshman in high school, and just getting that physicality and being able to adapt to it at being at 14 years old or whatever. And that really helped me, especially my junior and senior year, just being um, experienced, if you will. And yeah, by the time I was a sophomore, I was starting on varsity, and then just got better and better each year.
So let's go into that sophomore year then. You have that big jump where you become a key piece of that team. Like I said, you are a starter now. What led to that jump? What took you from the freshman year, just kind of working your way up onto that team, and then ultimately becoming one of the top guys by your second year?
I mean, definitely growing physically helps.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I think personally, such a big thing of basketball is the mental side of it, and just gaining confidence. And like I said, just having a year under my belt playing against 17 and 18-year-old guys in practice and stuff. And um, but yeah, I mean, changing physically is definitely something that helped me a lot.
There's a couple of unique pieces I want to get into about your game specifically. And we know you as a guy that the past couple of years you've developed and become a great scorer. But something you've always had is that you've been a great rebounder and you run the guard position. You can run the forward. You're a very versatile type player. You can facilitate too. Has that always been a part of your game? Have you just always been able to have a knack for being able to go out there and grab the rebounds and be able to facilitate at the same time?
Yeah, something especially in college once I got there, because I started as a four.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And in the Summit League, I wasn't like super undersized, but obviously when we would play high major teams and stuff, it was I was a lot smaller than the usual four.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I've always kind of felt like I was in the right spot at the right time. when it comes to rebounding. I think it just is something that comes naturally, and something that I really enjoy doing, especially defensive rebounding and getting out and running, being able to push it. My coach at North Dakota State really preached that to me, especially my first 2 years. If I ever got a rebound, to push it myself, basically. And then I love getting offensive rebounds too, because I think as a defense, it's so demoralizing, just given extra opportunities. And that's something my first 2 years that I kind of really tried to provide for our team. And yeah, I mean, just something that I think kind of comes naturally.
How about the scoring aspect? Because you still did become a top 10 all-time scorer in your program high school history. You now developed into one of the top scorers also at the college level too. Was that something you naturally had as well, or did that take time to develop?
It was kind of funny. My freshman year of high school, I was strictly a shooter. That's all I did.
Mm-hmm.
And then my sophomore year grew physically. My sophomore to junior year, I probably grew the most. And at my junior year, I was more of like a driver and kind of an athlete. And kind of same. I could always shoot, but like my freshman year, I really relied on that all the time. And then I was much more of kind of a slasher, and especially my freshman year of college. But I think just repetition and getting in the gym and really falling in love with the grind of college basketball, and getting in the gym multiple times a day, and like I said, just the repetition. And my first 2 years of college, I definitely had a more limited role.
Mm-hmm.
I was like I said, offensive rebounder, and I don't know, I think I averaged like 6.5 points a game or something. But I knew my role, and I felt like I exceeded in that role. And then I knew my junior year of college, it was definitely time to step up for North Dakota State as a leader, and more of a scorer and stuff like that, and definitely the second half of my senior year as well.
You brought up that growth spurt a few different times now. So take us through that a little bit. Like, how much did you actually grow? Was it over like a 3 or 4 months time period? Was it over a course of a year? Or just take us to that growth spurt you had in high school then?
I think from my sophomore to junior year, like that whole year, I probably grew. I think I was probably 5'11" and grew to 6'5", and then so a little painful, but definitely grateful for it at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
How much did that growth spurt change for you in terms of as a player, in terms of recruiting a little bit? How much did that, even confidence that you kind of talked about earlier too, like how much did that growth spurt help you all of a sudden say, I now actually have a legitimate chance to play at the Division I level? Or like what kind of changed for you when you did have that growth spurt?
Yeah, it was really nice, because growing up, I really worked on, my guard skills, and, being a point guard or shooting guard, working on my handles and shooting, obviously. And that's something that always was with me, even through, the growth spurt, and eventually getting to whatever 6'6", 6'7", and still being able to do all of that. So, my junior, especially obviously my senior year when I had Division I offers, I just believed in myself even more, and definitely something that I'm grateful for, being able to play a guard at a young age and getting that experience, and then growing and kind of keeping that skill set, or obviously getting even better at it. So
you go into that junior season, you guys as a team had a great season. You guys go 18-7. You also have another great year. What was your junior year of high school like?
It was a lot of fun. That group was really close. It was, I know we lost to the state champions in our district final. So we were 1 win away from state. So that was tough, but it was a lot of fun, because like I said, that group of seniors at the time, and then, my class of the juniors was really close.
Mm-hmm.
So, definitely something I look back on and can smile about for sure.
But that senior year was your biggest season. You become a member of the All-State team. You have an incredible year overall. You guys go 24-2 that year, the most wins in program history. Going into that season, though, did you guys expect to have that great of a season? Did that shock you guys a little bit, or what were your guys' expectations heading into your senior year of high school?
I would say, I don't know that I expected us to go like 24-2.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew the pieces that we had, and the confidence I had in the team. that we had something special for sure. And our goal was to be state champions. I think we were the 2 seed coming out of districts. And then in state, I'm pretty sure we were the 2 seed. Obviously, we got upset, and I'm still a little bitter about it. But yeah, I mean, that year was definitely special, setting school records and doing it with a lot of the guys that I grew up playing basketball with. I think there was probably 6 or 7 of the guys on that team that I'd played, I don't know, 6 or 7 plus years with. And definitely a special year for us.
As I mentioned in the beginning, Nebraska doesn't necessarily have a ton of guys that's top to bottom elite players that's Division I caliber, but there's still a good handful of them. So if you look back throughout your high school career, is there one guy, maybe a couple of guys that you'd say were your favorite guys to match up against throughout high school?
In high school, I would say Cannon Coster. He went to Nebraska Kearney and then transferred to South Dakota. Sharif Mitchell was really good, and growing up, he was kind of the guy that I thought was, one of, if not the best player in the state for my class. So those, I mean, are 2 guys I thought I played with. Jordan Jansen was a really good player, and has obviously he's done his thing at Wayne State and has 1 more year there. So shout out Jordan. Hopefully he can. I think he's gonna break some records here this year. So that was special. Me and him are still really close.
So when you look back throughout your career, then what would you say is your favorite high school basketball memory? And from all the things you experienced, the ups and downs, whatever it might have been, what is the biggest moment or your favorite moment you created in high school?
Honestly, first, obviously, I would say winning the district final and finally winning that and being able to go to state. Because the last 2 years we lost in the district final and it was kind of heartbreaking. But one of the big memories that I remember from high school basketball is so we would play Friday nights a lot, I think. And whenever we would play in Lincoln on Friday nights after the game, the whole team would go to Applebee's. And so that's just something that's always going to stick with me. And I think it's funny. I hear a lot of, college basketball players and former college basketball players talking about, going out to eat or just like silly stuff like that. And it's, you really do, like, that's what you remember, and you don't realize it in the moment, but it's definitely special.
I know this kind of skips around a little bit, but I do want to get into the recruiting process, which obviously occurred during this high school career. So we're going to kind of backtrack a little bit, but before getting to that, the thing I want to touch up on a little bit is the ranking aspect. And I know that for a lot of guys in high school, you of course would like to see your name with some stars on it, have yourself be ranked, get more notoriety. How did you deal with that, though, going throughout high school and not getting the attention from those national recruiting sites? Did that ever get you at any point, and how did you just ultimately deal with that?
No, I've always not really believed in that type of stuff, to be honest. But I will say, anytime we played, in AAU tournaments and stuff, and we played the highly ranked guys or whatever, I definitely played harder. That's always kind of inspired me, and I always just loved that kind of challenge. Even in college, playing high major teams and stuff like that with the big names. But yeah, it's not really something that ever affected me, or something that I really took a lot of, time out of my day to look at and pay attention to. I kind of just always, especially, my junior and senior year of high school, believed in myself and knew I had goals that I wanted to achieve and was going to work to achieve those.
Obviously, we look at your career, the way you pan out as a player now, you obviously should have been ranked on some of those sites or whatever. But at that point in time, as a senior going into college, did you feel that you should have belonged on the top 100? You should have been on the top 150, whatever it might have been. Do you feel that you were at that level, or has the past 3-4 years really helped turn you into the player that you are today?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, probably not. I mean, especially at the time, I didn't think that. At North Dakota State, especially my freshman year, I came in and started as a freshman, which I didn't necessarily expect fully. And the coaching staff up there just always pumped confidence into me, and at times definitely believed in me, especially in my early years, believed in me more than I even believed in myself. That's something I'm really grateful for. But I definitely think, 2-3 years there really obviously prepared me for this last year. And just each year I felt like I got better and better and more confident and more confident. So
On the other side of that is the recruiting aspect, and you had some Division One offers, probably not as many as you dreamed of or whatever it could have been, but going through that process, take us that a little bit. Like, when did you get your very first Division One offer, and just take us to that very first offer you got and how that kind of what that experience was like for yourself?
yeah, my first Division One offer was it was my last AAU season. So it would have been like July, I think, of 2017. It was after the Mullins tournament in Wichita. And yeah, it's kind of funny. My trainer here that I had worked with, probably at that time only a few months, his name's Thomas Villianco. He told me I just needed one dunk. Once I get one dunk, it would take off. And I mean, he wasn't wrong. I had a nice kind of a poster dunk in that tournament, and that's when the Summit League really started calling, and I got a few offers here and there. And yeah, I mean, that tournament definitely kind of changed my whole trajectory, I would say.
So before that point, where were you planning? I know you also had a Division Two offer, I believe, or something, or you had a JUCO offer. I know that to Nebraska Kearney. Where were you thinking you're going to be? Because at that point, you're ending your final AAU summer, you're going through that, and you don't have the offers yet. What were you kind of thinking you're going to be doing over the next couple of years in terms of college?
Yeah, I mean, at the time, I thought I was kind of a Division two player, because I mean that's what I was getting, and then got the chance to play with, on the Adidas Gauntlet OSA team at the time, and obviously that exposure was a lot different, and is something that I'm very grateful for. And if I didn't have that opportunity, I'm not sure where I guess I would be at this point.
Going through that process, then you end up getting schools. Obviously, we know you're going to go to North Dakota State, but what other schools were heavily in the mix for you? Like, did you have a final two or three schools that it really came down to for yourself?
Guys, it's kind of a funny story. I actually committed to the University of South Dakota first.
Mm-hmm.
So USD was obviously a big school for me. Nebraska, Omaha, because it was so close. I really liked I think my three official visits were those three schools. And like I said, yeah, I committed to USD, and then the coach that I committed to, he left and then reopened my recruitment. And that one was a little bit more crazy just because of the timing. There was a few more schools, especially in the Midwest, that reached out, but I knew that I wanted to go. I really liked my official visit at North Dakota State. It reminded me a lot of home, and I felt like I was at home. And the first time around, I was just a little scared of the distance, but my second time, I didn't care. I just wanted to go where it felt like home, and had a good relationship with the coaching staff. So I was ready to go there.
What was it about Coach Richmond? How did he come out there and ultimately win you over as a recruit then?
I mean, I just felt like he really wanted me. I knew the first time around he really wanted me, and I felt that love, I guess, if you will. Yeah, I don't know. It was I just felt like it was home, and Fargo is definitely kind of a football town, kind of like Lincoln, just on a lower level, I guess, or smaller level. But yeah, I mean, committed there, and the rest was history, I guess.
You mentioned that you didn't expect to start as a freshman. You didn't exactly know what your role would be. So what were you planning when you first commit there, and even going through the training camps and the off-season workouts and all that? What did you expect to have happen during your freshman season?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, part of the recruiting pitch was that, we think you can come in and be a 4-year starter or whatever. I didn't really know how much, like, if that was a thing that coaches say to all recruits to get them to come, or so I didn't really buy into that a whole lot. But I mean, once I got there, I knew that I could contribute for sure. And I still remember our first scrimmage before my freshman year. He kind of threw out the first five, and I was a part of it. And I know I was kind of surprised, and I think some of the older guys were a little surprised too. But one guy that always had my back, and like I talked about a little bit with believing in me more than I believe in myself, was Vinny Shahid, our point guard, my freshman and sophomore year. He's probably the best leader I've ever been around, and just knew how to rally the troops really. And he was a guy that really had a positive impact on me, and I still talk to him probably every other week now. And so yeah.
When would you say you started realizing that, I can play this level now? I can actually produce, I can start, I can be a high level player now at this level. At what point during your freshman year did that start clicking for yourself?
I think once we got into conference, I had a little minor injury. So I was out, I don't know, 5 or 6 weeks in the non-conference. And then we went back, or we started conference play. And once I got, I don't know, 10 games into that, and especially in the Summit League tournament my freshman year, I think in the semifinals I had a game with 20. So that was kind of, I don't know if it was eye-opening necessarily, but it was kind of validation that, like, yeah, I can do this, and yeah, I can do this at a high level.
I know for a lot of freshmen, they have a wake-up moment to college where it's something that either that be at the training camp, going scrimmaging against your teammates, or rather that be during the season. Did you have a freshman wake-up moment where all of a sudden you're like, dang, this is college basketball now?
Yeah, my first Division I game was against New Mexico State. Obviously a really talented mid-major team and program. And they just had a bunch of dogs, and it was a long game for us, but that was definitely like, yeah, I'm here. Like, this is the real deal.
I want to go a little bit into Coach Richmond, because you talk about how he had the confidence in you pretty much from the beginning. What was that like having a coach that always had confidence in you, even if you were doubting yourself, if you were going through ups and downs of your career, and obviously you had a lot of injuries we'll talk about throughout this too, but to have someone that always kept that confidence in you, how big was that for you as a player?
Yeah, it was big time. I think that's a big part of coaching. Is just kind of instilling confidence into your players. And, when I was there, me and him were always on the same page. We were very similar people, and developed a really good, relationship off the floor. And that, with time, just developed into trust on the floor and stuff like that. And, like you said, from day one, he believed in me, and definitely something that I'm very grateful for.
When would you say you two officially clicked on the court? Because you eventually become the point guard later on in your career too. When was the point you started feeling like, okay, we're on the same page, whatever goes on in this game, I know what he wants? You guys really just clicked together. When do you think that happened for you two?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like my first 2 years, like, we were always on the same page, but it's a whole new thing when you're the point guard, and you always have his ear, and you have meetings and all this stuff. So, I mean, I would definitely say my junior year of college, but I always kind of felt that connection, I guess, if you will. But at a whole different level starting my junior year.
When you look at how your guys' relationship has grown from the first time you guys started talking in the recruiting process to today, how much would you say it's grown? What's it been like seeing how close you guys have become over that time span?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that's pretty special. I think it's pretty unique in college basketball. And something that I'm forever grateful for, because I loved my 4 years there, and him and the whole coaching staff was obviously a ginormous part of that.
When you look at all the memories you two created together, what would you say is your favorite memory of Coach Richmond, and what's the funniest memory you have with him as well?
Oh gosh, I think the funniest is especially with the guys that we had, because they were all good dudes. But it's every head coach is going to have their own style or whatever, if you will. So it was we got to the point probably my second or third year where some of the guys would almost like openly make fun of him in a way, just like funny things that we thought that he did that he wouldn't necessarily notice, but then he would catch on and so he would kind of go along with the joke. So that was probably the funniest. I mean, obviously winning a conference tournament and going to the NCAA tournament and eventually winning in the playing game and all that was something that I'm never going to ever forget.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the really special things is he was really close with Landon Solberg, who was the kid that passed away. And we had he was the one that introduced me to him and wanted me to really get to know him. So we have a pretty close relationship, both of us, with obviously with Landon's family and the foundation. So that's something that we really have in common.
There's another person that I have to imagine you two grew a really close relationship with as well, and that's Rocky, who you guys have the same story. You guys basically went together and developed throughout your careers, eventually became a dynamic duo and has done incredible things the past couple of years as the two main guys. Were you two close right when you guys first met, and just how did you guys first get to know each other?
Yeah, I met him on actually, it's kind of funny. We talk about this a lot, but my only official visit to North Dakota State was my first go around with the recruiting process. Mm-hmm. He wasn't there. He was like studying or something. So like I would always give him crap about that. And he's the reason that I didn't originally commit there because I didn't meet him. But yeah, I met him on my unofficial the second time around, and immediately I knew it was a guy that I was going to get along with very well. Obviously, I didn't know grow up because I didn't grow up with a brother. But if there's a guy in my life that's like a brother to me, it's definitely him. He's one of, if not my best friend. And we had such a good relationship off the court. You know, we would fight like brothers sometimes because we didn't always see eye to eye, but it was always like healthy and good for us. And then, you know, that really close relationship obviously blossomed on the floor. And definitely our off the court relationship, I think, really translated well to our successes on the court.
When you two were younger, I know he was a year older than you. He was already there for you before you got there. But when you were a freshman, he was a sophomore, then obviously you're a sophomore, he's a junior. Did you guys start feeling like, okay, we have the chance of becoming the two main guys of this program. We can lead this program into great things eventually? Or did that kind of shock you guys in terms of how you guys eventually not just became friends, but became the two leaders and the top two guys on the team?
Yeah, I think we definitely kind of had an idea. Even when I first came in, Coach, like one day kind of just sat us down and told us that he thought, you know, the two of us are going to eventually be, you know, the leaders and two of the main guys on the team, you know, in years to come. So really kind of embrace our roles now and look up to these guys that are leading us and carry it on, if you will. So we kind of always had that and we would talk about that. But then when it became real, my junior year, his senior year, he was a really good vocal leader. And I felt like I've always been a really good, you know, leader by example and kind of just doing the next right thing, I guess. So we really balanced each other out really well. I felt like, and, you know, like I said, our relationship just grew each and every year. And, you know, he's definitely a friend that I'll have forever. So very, very grateful for that.
So I asked you the question about Coach a little earlier, but now what's your favorite memory and what's the funniest memory you had with Rocky?
Oh gosh. Funny. I think some of the fights we would have, just like we would be so mad at each other for 30 minutes. And then once that 31st minute hit, it was like, we would just start laughing and it was just totally normal. Kind of like how brothers are, I guess. But yeah, it's just obviously I've had countless, you know, fun nights out on the town or whatever, just doing college things and stuff like that. But obviously we won a lot of games with him and those are always really fun memories. But yeah, I'm never going to forget a lot of the stuff that we've done, you know, off the court and, you know, just enjoying our college days together for sure.
Well, let's go through that freshman season because you do start all but 2 games that year. You start 22 or 24. You guys have a pretty solid year as well, 19 and 16. End up making the tournament. We'll talk about it in a second. But that first just half of the season, then you end up having the injury we'll talk about too. But the first half of the season before the injury, what was that first portion of the year like for you?
Not good. I remember we had a meeting and we were 2-7 at the time. And we kind of had a pretty serious meeting and was just like, why, like just talked about it as a team and figured some stuff out as far as roles and everything. And, I mean, especially at the mid-major level and in the Summit League, all that really matters, to be honest, is those 3 games in March. And, you know, our team, my freshman year for sure, had the most confidence that we had all season going into that tournament. I think we were the 4 seed. But, you know, we knew that we could win. And quite honestly, one thing that helped us was South Dakota State got upset that year. They lost to the 8 seed. They were the 1 seed. So then we played Western in the second round. It was a really close game. And then, Omaha in the championship. And like I talked about, Vinny Shaheed was a big reason that we had success that year because he was such a good leader and such a positive influence on a lot of our guys and brought out the best in the guys that were playing, and everyone was really bought in. So that was a really fun experience.
I mentioned the injury aspect for yourself, and you haven't had too many serious. Obviously, the one this past year was technically pretty serious, but you still were able to come back from it. It obviously ended up being okay for yourself. But it ended up having, where pretty much every single season you've had an injury that knocks you out for right around a month and a half, 2 months of time span. That first time you go through it, though, the knee injury, take us out a little bit and just how are you able to bounce back from that then when you did get back on the court?
Yeah, that was really the first time I ever have been sidelined because of an injury for somewhat of an extended period of time. Honestly, developed a really good relationship with our trainer right away, which was good. But yeah, I mean, just kind of buying into the rehab process, and I think injuries are obviously physically they're tough and sometimes painful and whatnot, but mentally is probably the hardest thing.
Mm-hmm.
Especially being, you know, athletes. What we do is we work out and we play basketball. We don't do a whole lot more than that. And when that's taken away, it's kind of like, what do I do? Like I don't feel like myself. And so just, I don't know, learning from that experience and I guess realizing that basketball is basketball and it's something that is a privilege to do. And it's something that I'm grateful to do.
You guys get to that conference tournament. You guys end up going all the way to the championship game. Take us that experience because that's something that, as you mentioned, not a lot of people realize how big that is for a mid-major conference. That is everything. Obviously, that game's not just you guys get to win a conference championship. That's a huge piece of it, but it's your ticket to go to the tournament. So what was the emotions like just building up to that game? And when you guys did come out as champions of that, what were you guys' emotions?
Yeah, I mean, I was nervous, obviously. For, you know, a kid from Lincoln, Nebraska, seeing the ESPN cameras and stuff like that wasn't something that I was accustomed to for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember because that was the game I came off the semifinal. I had 20, and so I remember being in warmups and I wasn't shooting because I don't know, I was still like really humble, I guess, and so I was just kind of like rebounding or just kind of standing there, you know, didn't want to take the seniors and the junior spots or whatever shooting. And one of the ESPN camera guys like came up to me because he wanted a shot of me shooting for, I don't know, the preview or whatever, because I had 20 in the last game. And he was like, "Hey, can you shoot for us a little bit?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." So that was kind of a funny little thing, but I've always loved kind of the spotlight, I guess, if you will, once we actually get into it, after the build up, I guess. And it's just, yeah, it was an experience I'll never forget. I remember when that final buzzer went off and we had won, I just like went to the ground for a little bit because I didn't believe it, that I was going to play in the NCAA tournament and that obviously we won and all that stuff. But it was something that I'll cherish for the rest of my life.
So you guys get that win, you guys go to the tournament, and I know it's obviously a debate for a lot of people. If you win the tournament, I think you guys should just obviously get in. You guys are going to have to play a playing game, but at the same time, it helps you guys to get a win because you guys were the 16th seed. And you guys played a team we'll talk about in a second who became pretty famous. We could say obviously with Zion and company. So that first game that you guys get to go out there, you guys get a win in the tournament. What was it like to, first of all, just be able to step foot and play in March Madness, thing you've always grown up wanting to play in, and then B, to also come out and be able to win that game?
Yeah, it was an awesome experience, obviously. So the game was in Dayton, Ohio, and Dayton, Ohio loves their basketball, that's for sure. So we got there, and it was a playing game. I wasn't expecting like a whole lot, but we got to the hotel. They had a band there for us. They were like super welcoming, like said, "Welcome North Dakota State" and all this stuff. And so that was a little overwhelming. I wasn't really expecting that. And then we go to the practice. You get a police escort, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that whole experience was amazing. And I mean, I like going back and just watching that game because it was an NCAA tournament. There was 10,000 people there. And we won an NCAA tournament game, which is, not something that a lot of people have on their resume, I guess. But yeah, it was a really cool experience for sure.
You guys go into the next game then, and that was obviously they ended up winning the championship, but that Duke team was probably one of the more famous teams we'll always know and recognize for our generation with Zion, RJ, Cam Reddish. You guys head in there as a 16 seed. They're the number 1 seed. What were you guys thinking in the locker room leading up to, what was going through your guys' minds?
I mean, we just needed to play like we didn't have anything to lose because, I mean, we did. Literally nobody in the gym or in the world thought that we would win. And I mean, in the first half, we hung with them. I think we were down 3 at halftime.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really cool to see just the support that we got from Fargo and having it was little, but our own little section at the arena. And I think there was somewhere around like 18,000 people. And I think that really honestly helped me so much for the rest of my career because I wasn't really going to have another game that reached, that magnitude, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
At least reasonably. Like, obviously, I would have loved to. Yeah. 18,000 people there in that Duke team and playing against Coach K and all this stuff. I had that experience under my belt and was able to kind of look back on that and learn from it. And if I ever had, another game that I thought was big, I could be like, oh, yeah, but I played in, a bigger game, I guess, if you will.
So when you were going through that game and you got to go match up on a guy like Cam Reddish, RJ Barrett, or Zion, what was that like?
I mean, it's funny because it was my birthday, so it was a heck of a birthday present, I guess. And I was the same age as them. Like, I was 18, they were 18. I was nowhere near obviously as athletic or built, I guess. We didn't look the same age, that's for sure. But it was really cool. Just, obviously those guys are ultra talented and the name and recognition that they had, it was just a really cool experience. And like I said, even back to my AAU days, I always loved playing against the big name players. And I mean, that's something that I can take with me for the rest of my career and life, honestly. So
I'll take a little break of your overall college career because right after that, you get the opportunity to go out there. And as you mentioned earlier, because of the dual citizenship, you go out there and play with Germany, and you were able to go play with the U20 team in Germany out there. Take us that experience. Like, how first, what did that come to be? How did you get the opportunity, and just how'd that all get set up?
Basically, when I was in high school and college coaches that were recruiting me found out that my dad was German, they were on me right away. Like, you need to get your German passport. It's going to help you so much playing professionally and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. So when I turned 18, my dad and I went down to Chicago to the German embassy and got my passport, got the citizenship. And so that's how I was able to do that. And actually from the NCAA tournament games, they watched me and then texted me, called me, wanted me to come out. And so they flew me out that summer. And I was there for 6 weeks or so. We went to Germany, Spain, Italy, and Israel. I mean, one of the best experiences of my life. It's crazy to me that just a round orange ball can take you all over the world and experience so many cool things and meet so many cool people. And just help you develop relationships. And that was something really big for my life. Not only obviously it was a huge basketball opportunity, but just having that experience of going over there by myself and having to, make friends and yeah, like I said, be like I was by myself the first few days. I knew my grandparents still lived there, so I stayed with them.
Mm-hmm.
Going on the team, not a lot of they spoke English, but like when they would talk to each other, they would obviously speak German, and I didn't really speak that much German.
Mm-hmm.
So it was I didn't necessarily realize how cool the experience was or like cherish the whole thing until I came back to the States and looked back on it. And
Mm-hmm.
I still talk to some of my teammates that I had on there, and it was really, really cool.
In my opinion, I think a lot of guys that do experience some form of playing for a country kind of agree with this, is that it's a whole nother level of representing something, because obviously I know some guys would say, okay, you prefer representing actually where you're from, but the ability to go out and represent an entire country, you as a college player or an NBA player, whatever, like you represent that team, maybe that city, whatever. But when you get to represent an entire country, you're playing for them, you have a whole country behind you, it's a completely different feeling than anything else you really get as a player. So take us that a little bit. Like you get to go out and represent a country like Germany and play for them and play against so many other great countries. What was that feeling like in terms of just representing that country?
Yeah, it was an amazing feeling. Really cool, especially in the European Championships, because everyone is obviously trying to win. A lot of really talented players, guys that I hadn't heard of just because they grew up in Europe and whatever took that route. But so many really well coached teams and guys I had been playing against, grown men for a few years at least now. And so it was really, the talent level was really high. And then in the European Championships, we were fortunate enough to get, third and win the bronze medal. And I mean, when you really think about it, and just representing a whole country and being able to do that on that stage was, incredible. And just getting back in the locker room, and we were celebrating and with dudes that I literally met 6 weeks ago, but just that whole experience, like we grew so much tighter. It was really, really cool.
Now, going forward, obviously, probably the only other opportunity would be the FIBA International Games or potentially even the Olympics going forward. Have you talked to them about potentially going and representing them, playing and going to tryouts or whatever it is with Germany eventually someday else down the road?
Yeah, I'm still in contact with the coach that I had. Some people over there. Obviously, if that opportunity would present itself, it would be a no-brainer for me. Something that I would absolutely love to do. And I'm really just hoping and praying for that opportunity.
At the same time, too, if it's not for international play in terms of representing a country, you obviously have the chance of playing professional, whether it be in the NBA, G League, overseas someday. Would playing overseas, going out there to playing in Germany or something like that, be something that you would like to do someday, possibly?
Yeah, that's quite honestly what I planned on doing pretty much this whole year. And especially with my German passport, it's a lot easier for me to do that, I guess, if you will. And my grandparents still live in Germany, like I said, so they haven't seen me play live since probably middle school. So that would be an amazing opportunity, and just something that I would really like to do, for sure. Being able to, I love to travel, and being able to do that, like I said, with a little round orange ball as a reason is something that's really cool. And I'm grateful for hopefully that opportunity in the future.
How much did that experience and being able to play at that high of a level throughout the off season, how much did that help you then going into your sophomore season of college, and also just now, even today, how's it kind of trickled in and helped you as a player throughout the rest of your career developing so far?
I think just getting different coaches' opinions on stuff, and kind of like learning from them, and even other players over there. Like a lot of them were on their third team or so, but they still practice against all the top players and stuff. So being able to learn from them. And then, yeah, I don't know, just obviously European basketball is a little bit different. Really, really skilled players, not necessarily the same athletes, I would say. But just kind of learning that style of the game. And I definitely think that's something that helped the game just really slow down for me, especially my last 2 years of college.
let's go into that sophomore season then of college for yourself. You head out there and you guys have your best winning record as a team that year. You guys go 25-8, incredible run. COVID obviously cuts things short to end it all. But what was that second year of college like for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, really, really special. That the team was so close. We were really, really talented. Obviously, we won the Summer League championship by 30 some points.
Mm-hmm.
We're really looking forward to giving the NCAA tournament another crack and maybe even winning a game or two, and making a run. Obviously, that didn't happen, but I'm a big believer in everything happens for a reason, and I don't know. It was really. I just felt really bad for the seniors because they had done such a good job leading us, and obviously we got to where we wanted to get to, but ended on definitely a weird, sad feeling for sure.
Now that season, you got a lot more bench role. That was the most games you came off a bench that season, and part of it too was because of the injury you had midseason again too. But how did you accept that role that season?
Yeah, it was the injury was. I think I started. I don't know the first few games, and then injury was kind of a freak little deal, and I was out probably 8 weeks, and then came back off the bench and kind of just sat down with our coach and we just talked about, we thought that was the best for me and the team going forward. And then, the guy that was Tyree, who is one of my best friends and was a leader with me and Rocky the last 2 years. He was playing ahead of me basically in that kind of 4 area. And he actually ended up getting a concussion like a few days before the tournament, so he couldn't play. So then I was kind of back into the starting 4 role and had a good Summit League tournament. So
you guys go through that run, and once again, you guys easily win the championship there. As you mentioned, the COVID comes into play then, so I kind of wanted to go into that a little bit deeper because that changed everyone's life, obviously, across the world. But for you guys as a players and a team, you guys were going to go to the tournament again. How did you guys first find out about that? Just what was your guys' immediate reaction to when you guys found out that the tournament was going to be canceled and you guys wouldn't be able to play anymore that year?
Yeah. So we won on a Tuesday night, went back on a Wednesday. I don't know if it was Wednesday or Thursday, but that was kind of when the Rudy Gobert thing happened.
Mm-hmm.
Then we found out the NCAA was going to shut down, or the NBA was going to shut down, and we were like, okay, that's not a good sign. So I think we found out on probably that Thursday or Friday officially. Everyone was kind of sent home, and it was just like that was that. It was definitely crazy. And then starting the next year, like kind of it was really hard to just kind of throw that away because it was such a special thing, and we had such high hopes and whatnot. But then kind of just being like, okay, we need to forget about that because we have to focus on, the leadership change that was happening. Obviously, we had a really good group of seniors that was leaving. So we had some guys that needed to step up, and it was hard to do because we couldn't see each other in person. Mm-hmm. So all the spring workouts we didn't have, obviously. And yeah, I mean, we kind of had to lead, I guess, by Zoom for a while, which was interesting. But then we were fortunate enough to get back up there in June and kind of start, I guess, for me, my junior campaign. And like I said, that new rotation of leaders.
That's what I wanted to get into with you because that was a hectic time because everyone in the college world didn't enough games were going to be played. And we'll talk about the season as a whole because that was obviously up and down too. But you had a huge summer of needing to grow as a player. You and Rocky were officially now the star players of this team, Tyree as well. And not only were you guys taking on this new role, but you were pretty much switching positions too. You became a point guard. You were becoming a guy that had to facilitate, learn the offense in a new sense for yourself. How did you have the jump that you had? Because you became an all-conference player too that year. How were you able to accomplish all this stuff while you were at home, while you weren't able to be around coach the whole summer?
Yeah. I just remember I was shooting in the gym one day in the summer when we were back, probably in like July. Mm-hmm. And we had this little balcony from the coach's offices, and he just comes out there and he goes, Sam, you might be playing a little point guard this year. And I just got this big smile on my face because it's always something I wanted to do. And to be honest, I mean, I'm not really sure a whole lot of people like believed in me, I guess, as, being a point guard and whatnot. But for some reason, that was just always something that I really believed that I could play the position and succeed at it.
Mhm.
And I loved, sitting down and watching extra film and watching guys, like Chris Paul and
Mhm.
point guards that really control the game. Um, and then, just growing each and every game and learning new things every game. And, especially by the time my senior year, I was just very, very comfortable playing that position and kind of being that player for this team.
Were you shocked that coach wanted you to run point guard? Because beforehand you were running the 4-man, you're running the 4. That's not even, you weren't even running necessarily an off-ball guard or anything at that point. So that's completely a whole new side of it. Were you shocked at all when coach did tell you that?
Yeah, I think it was something that was, I kind of thought that maybe it was going to happen, but I didn't really expect him to like actually go through with it, I guess. But then once he, said that, I was obviously really excited and jumped in 100%.
Now, this season was a year that was hectic that year. When you talk about going through the daily testing, pretty much all the COVID stuff you had to deal with that junior year season, how did you guys just get through and just what was it like battling that season when you guys had possible breaks? You guys didn't know if you guys were going to play each night, everything that was going on that season. How did you guys deal with that?
Just taking it day by day. I mean, I think everyone experienced the same thing in life, but especially college basketball. We didn't know who we were going to play for sure until, the day before.
Yeah.
Or sometimes that morning. But yeah, just taking it day by day and controlling what we could control. And just having that mindset and just focusing in on that.
Now, it kind of takes the ups and downs of that season as a whole, then, because you still had a breakout season. I mentioned you become an all-conference player. What was that year like for you in terms of on the court?
Um, I would just say, just growing, like I said, each and every game. It was a lot of fun, new position, the
Mhm.
most fun that I honestly ever had playing basketball until this last year. But yeah, I would tell our coach that too. Like playing the point was the most fun that I've ever had, and I just loved that role. And yeah, my junior year was definitely a lot of fun.
That season comes to conclusion then, and you guys have a much more normal world in terms of getting to go off-season workouts and being around the team more consistently. Now, this past season, though, we'll talk about a few different things that happened. And what was an up and down season for you? A lot of stuff that happened, but you get ready for this season. It's you and Rocky back. Tyree, you guys have a lot of the core guys coming back, potential for a great roster once again. What were you guys expecting to get done this past season? Like, what was the expectation and goals for the team to get done this past year?
For sure, win the Summer League championship. My junior year didn't end like we wanted to,
Mhm.
and we brought a lot of guys back. And we just always had that kind of bitter taste in our mouth. So that's something that definitely motivated us. We wanted to go to the NCAA tournament, and we felt with our size that we had a good chance at even winning a few NCAA tournament games.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, going into the year that was not it was our goals, but it was also honestly our expectation too.
Something occurs for you though in the very beginning parts of the season, and you have a health scare that is quite crazy. So I'm not going to try to explain much of it. So I kind of want you to take us through what
Yeah.
occurred, how it happened, the recovery process. So just take us through everything that occurred from that beginning part of the season, everything you had to go through.
Uh, yeah, it was our last exhibition game. I didn't really feel for some reason I felt really tired and fatigued in the first half, and that's something that since my freshman year I always played a lot of minutes, and something that I'd never really experienced. I was kind of known, I guess, as a guy that never looked tired or anything like that, but I was super pale. Something I just knew was wrong, and so I came out, didn't play the second half, got an eval done the next day, and everything looked fine.
Mhm.
And so we flew out to California for our first Division I game against Cal Poly. Practiced, kind of felt the same, but expected to play the next day. And then that night, I couldn't fall asleep. Tried to make it to the bathroom, didn't make it. I remember because I felt like I was super nauseous and started to sweat and get super hot. And so I laid on the floor to try to like cool off because the floor was cold. It was just like tiles. I just laid my head down on the floor. And I started shaking, couldn't really like move, I guess. And then I threw up. It was completely dark. So I didn't really know what it like looked like, I guess. But it was blood, a lot of blood. And I laid there. I couldn't move. I called, luckily, thank God that I had a roommate, Willie Guy, and he got up and kind of sprung to action, got our trainer in there. And yeah, it was a very scary experience. There was probably, I don't know, 10 people in our hotel room with EMTs and stuff like that. Firefighters and whatnot, but they got me onto the stretcher, got me to the hospital. I had a stomach ulcer. I had lost a little bit more than half my blood. And they found that out that I had an ulcer and were able to give me some fluids. But yeah, it was a very scary experience, but to be honest, something that I'm like totally grateful for because it just gave me a whole different perspective on life. And working with the Landon's Life Foundation, I was in the moment when I was on the stretcher, I thought about two kids. Those the only people that I thought about because I didn't know what was happening with my body. I didn't know if I was going to see tomorrow, but I just thought about like what they would do in this situation. And that was one of my good friends now, Blake, who's I believe he's 9 or 10 years old now, but he has a little condition, but I'm super close with him and his mom, and then obviously Landon, and I just thought about what they would do, and they kind of gave me strength when I guess I thought I had none, but that's something that I've always kind of felt like was a full circle moment. And I believe that God kind of puts people in your lives or in our lives at the right time. And no matter if it's a really good experience or a bad experience, it's you can learn from it. And there's a reason behind it. So just thinking about them, and it was probably about another month before I could play again, but my hemoglobin got as low as 7.1. So I had to have a blood transfusion and 2 iron infusions. So crazy experience. Never want it to happen again, but totally grateful for it.
And that is something that's crazy because I'm sure at the time, and you even said at that point, you just were saying, am I going to make it tomorrow, whatever. But once you knew that you were going to make it, I have to imagine at some point you started saying, okay, well, what about basketball? When's that going to happen? How much did you rely on God? Because I know you're also a believer. So kind of take us to that aspect. Like you've gone through injuries the past couple of years of your college career. It made you miss some stuff with the COVID issues and with all that stuff too. But how big was relying on God throughout that whole process for you?
Yeah. I actually, after I threw up and I didn't know if it was blood or whatever, I remember thinking to myself, because I thought I was just sick. So I was like, I was pissed because I was like, oh, well, there's no way I can play tomorrow night because I'm sick. And just like thinking about that in that moment with how like kind of serious it was, kind of made me like take a step back and really like think about my life. And like I talked about, I mean, probably in the last year, if there's one word that I could, I don't know, call it is, and something that I live by now is just the perspective, and just gaining that. But yeah, and that month it really gave me time because I couldn't do a whole lot, but to really like work on my relationship with God, I always felt like, especially the last few years, really took it kind of by myself to really work on that part of my life and in that relationship. So I always felt really close, I guess. But even taking that month to really work on that and think about my life and my relationship with him. And like I said about just talking about Landon, that's something that he was really driven by and something that he always, talked about and made sure that, he knew that this was, God's plan. And that's kind of something that I took from him. Like, I know that this is supposed to happen to me. I know this is his plan for me. And I completely believe in that and believe in him, obviously. And just kind of, I don't know, being at peace with that was something that really helped me through the whole process.
So when that happened, we look back in hindsight, in terms of impacting your career long term, it wasn't significant. Obviously, you were able to get back on the court, still have a great season, but I'm not sure what was going through your mind at that point when it happened. So once they got you stable and things were going to be okay, were the doctors saying this could be something that makes you miss the rest of the season? Is that what you possibly thought, or where were you thinking in terms of getting back on the court you'd be at once you kind of were at a place where you're aware of what's going on now?
Yeah, honestly, once I had the first scope is the endoscopy, where they cauterized the ulcer and they saw it and everything and fixed it, I guess. The main thing that obviously we knew that we had to do was get my hemoglobin levels back up, basically just get more blood into my body. So that was a process, but they thought, once I got back to my normal levels and everything and got conditioned again, like I would be fine. They thought that I would obviously be able to play again and stuff like that. I'm not really necessarily sure that they thought it would happen like as fast as it did, just with, the Indiana State game being, my first home game back. And obviously that was probably my favorite game of my life and the game that I'm going to remember the most, just because of the implications and everything that happened prior and up to it. But yeah, I mean, as far as, what they were telling me is that, once we get everything back to normal, I should feel like normal and should be able to play. So
that has to be challenging though to get ready for a season, because everyone knows that to be a Division I athlete, especially a basketball player, you have to be in the best shape. All this stuff, you take pretty much the whole offseason to get ready for that time span. You're mid-season trying to get ready for this, and you were able to come back great. So how were you able to do that? And what was it like, not just recovering from that issue, but getting ready to play in basketball, high-level basketball? How were you able to do that?
I think, like we talked about, just relying on my faith was a big thing. And like I said, knowing that this was his plan for me. But also a big credit to, our trainer, and just having the right protocol for me, and just making sure that I was, checking each box every day and making sure that I was physically fit enough to do what I wanted to do again. And it was a slow process. And, for the first few weeks I was walking, and then I could jog a little bit, and then I could jog and walk. And it like we talked about, it took a while, but yeah, I mean, just relying on my faith and the trainers and the doctors, leading me in the right direction.
So you get back out there, you get going, you're doing a thing again. You get the conference play in, but middle of January, then you end up losing your grandma as well. How did that impact you, and how did you ultimately get through that situation then?
Honestly, so I've lost both my two grandparents that lived here in the States, both of them in the last 2 years. And honestly, when my grandpa passed my junior year, it was really expected. And in a way we were like, okay, is today, like I would wake up every day, I'd be like, okay, today's got to be the day, and it wouldn't be the day. And it was like that for like 2 weeks. So I had like a lot of anxiety from that. With my grandma, like I personally wasn't really expecting it. It wasn't because I was home for Christmas and I saw her and talked to her. And it just kind of happened. So it wasn't as like mentally draining for me, because I knew that she was finally at peace and, in heaven and with, back with the love of her life, and they were both able to sit and have like a front row seat to, my grandparents always loved watching my games and stuff like that. So, I would always pray, that they were finally together and watching, their grandson play basketball. And it was that was something that they always loved to do. So in a way I was kind of at peace with the whole thing, just knowing that she was back with him. So
I know for a lot of people that are not believers, and they might kind of question that, saying, okay, you went through a major health scare to start the season. You've gone through loss the past year now. How are you still able to trust in God? How do you still believe in him? How do you still have your faith in him? Kind of take us through that a little bit. Like, how have you been able to keep your trust and your faith in God?
I think just everything. I truly believe that everything happens for a reason. Um, and I don't know, life is so much bigger than what like even like an individual human can like comprehend.
Yep.
That we don't have that like perspective. And one thing that I've really, it's actually from like the Tom Brady ESPN Plus series or whatever, and he talked about with like the Chinese farmer story, with, you know, we don't have the perspective of the future, so we can't really tell if anything is good or bad that happens in our life. And that's something that, you know, stuck with me right away, and something that I really try to, you know, implement into my life. Because yeah, when something good happens, you know, you can, or I guess good, you think is good in the time, like obviously could be bad in the future, and something that's bad in the time could be good in the future. And not to get too high or too low, um, and not be on kind of like a roller coaster in life is something that I'm trying to work on right now, and kind of trying to preach, I guess, too.
So you continue through the season, then you end up having the all-conference year that we know you end up having. When you just look back now at your final year of college basketball out there at North Dakota State, what would you say the year was like, and just how did the year wrap up for yourself then?
Um, it was really tough, obviously, going out the way that we did, with losing in the championship. I think for me personally, just with like the year off the court that it was,
Yeah.
um, it was I don't know, it was a really special year, for me personally, I guess, just to be able to. I mean, in 4 years with the guys that I came in, and with Rocky and Tyree, you know, me, Rocky, and Tyree, every single year that we played together, we made it to the Summer League Championship. And to do that with like our last go around, was really special. Um, and obviously with the health scare that I had, and coming back from that, and you know, the second half, especially the conference season that I had, when everything really came together for me personally on the court,
Mhm.
um, was really special. And you know, by the end of the year, I felt like I was playing the best basketball that I had ever played in my life.
You look back at the career you now leave behind, where you finished top 10 in both assists and rebounds. And had you not had all the injuries and stuff you dealt with, you probably would have been top 10 just about every single stat category too. But you just see the legacy left behind, all the wins, all the records you put yourself in, the top tens, all this stuff. What does it mean to you to look back and see everything you accomplished now in North Dakota State?
Yeah, it's definitely really cool and humbling. Obviously, to see my name with some of the greats that have been to North Dakota State. I
Mhm.
don't know. My thing is that stuff is great. Um, but one thing that I really tried to focus on was the community aspect,
Mhm.
and leaving my mark truly there. And I really wanted people to, and want people to remember me, when it's all said and done, for, you know, who I was as a person, not really what I did on the court or anything. Like I want people to know, um, who Sam Griesel was, and stuff like that, not just the basketball side of me. Um, and you know, especially with being involved in the foundation, and being able to meet so many people, and any opportunity I could get, I really wanted to get out to the community and just serve others. And so I hope like that's kind of my legacy, I guess, there. Um, Obviously, like I said, all the on the court stuff is great, and it is what I love to do.
Mhm.
Um, but really, like thinking about what matters in life, and just being able to be someone that they can remember as just a good person is something that I would really like, I guess.
So if you could pick the biggest thing you accomplished rather than a stat on the court or a championship or something off the court, what is would you say is the biggest sole thing that you accomplished throughout your time out there at North Dakota State?
Ooh, uh, probably getting my degree.
Mm.
Um, I think that's overlooked in a lot of college careers, I guess.
Yep.
And like we talked about at the very beginning of the interview, like people forget that, you know, the free education is something that is so unbelievable, and not something that a whole lot of people can, I guess, experience.
Mm-hmm.
But, that's why we go to college, and, investing all the time that we do into our sport, but at the same time, getting, good grades and still, but graduating with a college degree, and, leaving and starting life with that is something that, definitely I don't want to take for granted. And then I don't know, I guess I would say that I'm proud of the stuff that I was able to do in the community and the opportunities that they gave me, to, show that side of me, is something that I'm really grateful for, and something that I'm hoping I can, carry on and know I can carry on here at Nebraska.
So now we pretty much have got to the point that you've been at now for about a month now, and that is you enter the transfer portal after that season, then you decide to utilize your extra year of eligibility. Walk us through the decision, though, because obviously you could have remained out there in North Dakota State, had one more season there. You could have pursued a professional opportunity somewhere. You decided to go to the portal route and go find a new home. What led you to that decision?
I think part of it is just how my season ended, and playing the best basketball that I felt like I had played in my career. And honestly thinking, 30 years down the road, if I look back on my basketball career and think that, I had this opportunity to come to Nebraska and play for, my dream school as a kid. And, honestly, it was a balance of me thinking back to when I was 10 years old until when I'm going to be 50. When I'm 50 and looking back, like, I think I would really regret not taking this opportunity. And, this opportunity to make a really big impact here. Like I hope that I will and can. And then, being a 10-year-old kid looking up to the players that were there at the time, like I thought that those dudes were untouchable. They were superheroes. And I don't know, just thinking about, hopefully being that for whether it be 1 or 100 kids around this community is definitely something that I'm ready for and something that I truly want to embrace this year.
So you enter that portal and you get countless schools wanting to have you at their school, and rightfully so. What were the schools that you say it came down to? Or was it just the fact that Nebraska came out of the way and you said, okay, the number one, no one's touching them, I'm going here? What did the recruiting process look like from the point you entered to the time you eventually went to Nebraska then?
Going into the portal, I had a really good, Nebraska was obviously this tremendous idea. For me personally, having the background that I had, especially with this state and whatever. So going in, I knew that, if Nebraska did call, like I would really, really consider it right away.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to, build that relationship with Coach Hoiberg a little bit and meet the guys and, go on an official. And if I felt comfortable, I had been through the recruiting process 2 times before, and I know how stressful and overwhelming it can be. So once I was at peace with, coming here and making that decision, it was a no-brainer. And, I guess like we saw within, a week and a half or 2 weeks, I was ready to pull the trigger here. So
you went on that visit, and the visit's obviously won you over there. So you got to take us the time that you got out there to Lincoln and you met Coach Hoiberg and the staff and you just got on campus, the time you left. What was that visit like?
It was really cool because I never really got like a true tour of the facilities or anything. Especially now, the stuff here is just second to none. Like the facilities they have here are ridiculous. So seeing all that stuff was really cool. Being able to sit down with the whole coaching staff and, like I said, develop that relationship. And then obviously the big thing for me was meeting the guys and the fact that they were able to have, a few of them here, and go to dinner with them and just get to know them a little bit, was probably the biggest thing for me, because those are, for the next year, those are going to be guys that I'm, hopefully going to end up being, best friends with and, try to build something special here.
Who are some of the guys you've been able to click with so far? I know the roster's still kind of up and down, moving around and all, but who are some of the guys that you'd say you've gotten to know and you've become already pretty close with just so far?
I would say for sure, Derek Walker. Me and him are kind of going to be the old heads of the team. It looks like. on my official, I was like, so how old are you? Like 21, 22? And he's like, I'm about to turn 25. And so that was a little bit surprising, but yeah, me and him are definitely the old heads of the team. So him, and then Sam Hoiberg being another kid that played high school basketball in Lincoln, and just kind of being, from around this area. Definitely a guy that I'm going to get along really well with. And, all the guys that are there right now are really good dudes. And I've met all of them and had conversations with all of them, and just excited to really get down there officially.
Now, if we're being honest, obviously, Nebraska hasn't been at the level that people expect them and want them to be at the past few years. And you being the hometown hero, potentially now this year, obviously that's good. I got to imagine that's your goal. You want to bring them to success, bring them to potentially the tournament, just have a successful year again. What will it take, and how important is it for you to get Nebraska basketball, maybe not even just a one-year jump to being where they once were, but to the point where they are a successful winning team again in the Big Ten? How important is that for you, and how do you plan on getting them to that point this year?
I think a big part of it that I've talked about with Coach Hoiberg is just the culture part, and bringing that into here, I guess, and just trying to help with that. And to be honest, I think, a successful season for us in a way is obviously wins. That's kind of what, especially college basketball coaches are, I guess, I don't know. That's just what they're criticized on and whatnot. But like I talked about earlier, just being a product out there on the floor that the fans here can really appreciate and be proud of. I think that's a big part of our, if we are that, I think we're going to have a lot of success and we're going to win a lot of games here. So yeah, like I said, I'm just really excited to get down here with the guys and build those relationships and start this thing.
Why should fans be excited for this team? And obviously, I said there's still going to be some moving pieces, but we know the core is kind of being set already. We got yourself, we got Derek out there. You have a few guys that's going to also be returning. CJ is going to be a huge player, I think, a few other guys. From what you know is on this team so far, how excited are you for this team? And also, how excited should fans be for this year's team?
Yeah, from what I know so far is that, this team is going to play for the right reasons and play for each other and for the bigger picture. I don't think any of us are really in it for ourselves. We all kind of have this vision of switching the culture around Nebraska basketball. And obviously we all want to win a lot of basketball games, and especially, having some experienced guys know that winning college basketball games is not, the formula for that is not focusing on individual success. It's, playing your role and, accepting that and really embracing it. And, I think our guys can do that. And I'm really looking forward to experiencing that.
Yeah, just landed another transfer in Juwan Gary, obviously coming out now from Alabama. Are there any of the guys that you're trying to recruit right now that coach just said, we're targeting this guy or that guy, maybe a couple of different guys that you guys are trying to bring in now?
Yeah, I know Antonio Reeves, obviously is big. Hoping that we can get him. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I kind of am leaving that up to them, obviously. And, whoever they bring in, I know is going to be a good dude and going to be down here and ready to win some basketball games. And like I said, just have an impact here.
Now, fans are going to be excited about yourself to get out here. So when you do step foot officially on campus in a month or so, when you get out there in June and start with the team and then obviously work in the community and playing and all that, what can fans expect for you to bring to this program? What will you be bringing to Nebraska?
What will I be bringing to Nebraska? I don't know. I think I have a little bit of a different perspective, being a part of the fan base and now being a player on the team. It's, I feel like I kind of have the community behind my back in a way. And I'm ready for that. I don't really feel that as a pressure. It's something that I'm really looking forward to. And just kind of bringing that into games and into this team, just having that perspective and playing just that little bit extra hard just because I'm from here and it means so much to me to be able to play here for a year. because quite honestly, it's something that I never thought was going to happen in my basketball career, but something that I'm so grateful for and just really looking forward to.
My last thing I do want to get into on Nebraska is Coach Hoiberg, and he's someone that obviously a lot of people have been judging him for what he's done so far. Hasn't necessarily been to what people were expecting. I'm just one that still has a lot of belief in him. I think we've seen he's proven already at the college level how great he can be at building a program. You obviously bought into him. You said, okay, I want to come here. I want to play for you. What was it about Coach Hoiberg that brought you in and said, you know what, I do believe in your system. I believe that we can help build this program and get Nebraska back to a winning program?
Yeah, I think part of it was, just seeing how I would fit in his system and the offenses and stuff that he likes to run. And just the basketball mind that he has is something that I'm really looking forward to just learn from him, and obviously the professional opportunities that he has had and how much he knows about the game is something that I'm really looking forward to, and something that I think is going to help me this year a lot, and then in my future endeavors with professional basketball as well. So
what would you say makes him a special coach in terms of the way he's already talked about game plan wise and using, getting the team together, forming the culture and all that? Like what makes Coach Hoiberg a special coach that you think fans should be excited for this season because of him?
Yeah, I mean, just his basketball knowledge, knowing what he knows, but then also being a good person. I can already tell, just even with other coaches that I've talked to or had in the past, tell me he's a good dude and off the court and in it for the right reasons and stuff. So just excited to be around him and like I said, learn a lot of stuff from him.
Absolutely, man. Well, something I was like wrapping talking about is building a legacy for yourself. And you only got 1 year out here now, but 1 year, if I was to ask you this question from 1 year now and you were to achieve this, what would you want to be remembered for everything you do on or off the court? What do you want to be remembered for what you bring and what you do at this next year in Nebraska?
Yeah, as a basketball player, just a dude that gave his all every single game. Played his butt off and played for the right reasons, played for, each and every person, not only on our team, but in that arena cheering for us. And then obviously, like we've talked a lot about the community aspect, a dude that, had a really big impact and especially off the floor, helping kids and families around this area in any way that he can, I guess. And I'm really just excited to get that aspect of it too.
Absolutely. Well, final thing I want to wrap up talking about is your faith. I know we touched upon a little bit. So when you look at your faith, were you just growing up in the relationship with God where you just said, okay, I'm just going to trust in you from pretty much the beginning? Or when would you say was the point that you really started putting your faith in God and really starting to trust him?
Yeah, I think for a lot of people's faith, I guess, like, yeah, you can grow up so I'm Christian, obviously. And you can grow up in a Christian household and, this is preached to you day in and day out. You go to church as a family and whatnot, but you aren't really like there, or you don't really it's not like a real relationship. So when I got to college, I really wanted to take that upon myself and learn and talk to people, get that personal relationship with not only God, but pastors and stuff like that. And something in the last year is that I've done is just, go and get coffee with the pastor that I had in Fargo and just talk about life and talk about, Jesus and all that stuff. But yeah, it's something that I really take pride in, I guess, especially the last few years. And the cool thing about it is, every day I learn something new and grow, just even if it's, 1%. I'm growing every day in it, which is something that I'm really looking forward to.
Where's the biggest moment you've had to put your trust in God throughout your life?
Probably this last, 6 months with the ulcer happening and just the crazy year that I had. And then, even the last month of my life, there's so much change. Like I didn't expect to be here a month ago. And, you know, committing to my dream school and all that stuff, like just knowing that, like I said, like not getting too high and not getting too low and just trusting his, you know, his plan for me and just sticking to it.
Now, as a believer, I know that some guys that might not be comfortable speaking of their faith or being vocal about it or putting it on social media or whatever, but obviously those that do, it's hoping to spread the light, be able to spread God's words to the rest of the world. Why have you been able to be okay with that? What's kind of led you to say, you know what, I'm okay being vocal about it. I'm okay spreading his word. Like what's led you to be outspoken about your faith?
I don't know. It's something that I genuinely believe in, and I'm just like very comfortable with that. I'm not the type of guy to like say that, you know, my faith is the correct way and like you have to believe that, or if you don't believe that, then I don't like you. Like that's not at all what I want it to be. It's just something that I'm very comfortable talking about and kind of my story. And there's just kind of been things in my life that have happened that in my mind are unexplainable without, you know, my faith and stuff like that. So.
Absolutely, man. My final question for you. Give Nebraska fans your 3 biggest goals that you have set for your lone season out there.
NCAA tournament.
Mm-hmm.
I would say top half of the Big Ten, finishing in the top half of the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't know, just being a part of a product that the fans can be proud of.
Absolutely, man. Well, Sam, congratulations on the commitment. I'm excited to see what God's got next for you, man. Keeping the light. Enjoy the rest of the offseason too, and appreciate taking time to come on today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It was fun.
Of course, man. You're always welcome on. God bless.
Yes, sir.